A struggling man braves a raging storm to save a stranded young woman, unaware she's the daughter of one of the richest men in the world. But what happens next will leave you stunned. Welcome back to Beyond Words, where every act of kindness has the power to change lives, including our own. Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. Ravi lived a life defined by struggle. At 30, he was already weathered beyond his years. His skin tanned and cracked from long days under the scorching sun. His once thriving farm now lay barren, ravaged by droughts and floods that had left him drowning in debt. Every morning began the same way, waking before dawn to tend to his aging mother, Lakshmi, whose frail body could no longer withstand the rigors of rural life. Her medical bills piled higher than the crops he used to grow, and every meal skipped was a reminder of their dire circumstances. Despite it all, Ravi refused to give up. He worked odd jobs in neighboring villages, hauling sacks of grain or repairing broken fences, anything to keep food on the table. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, luck seemed determined to elude him. One particularly brutal evening, as a fierce storm rolled in, Ravi sat hunched over a flickering lantern, mending torn fishing nets he hoped to sell at the market. Thunder roared overhead, shaking the walls of his modest hut, while rain lashed against the windows like angry fists. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, he heard faint cries carried by the wind. Ignoring the danger, Ravi grabbed a flashlight and ventured into the storm. What he found would alter the course of his life forever. A luxury SUV lay half-submerged in rising floodwaters, its headlights dimly illuminating the chaos. Inside, a young woman clung to the steering wheel, her face pale with fear. Without hesitation, Ravi waded into the icy water, pulling her free just as the vehicle slipped beneath the surface. Little did he know, saving her would bring blessings far greater than he could have imagined. The storm raged with unrelenting fury, rain pouring down in sheets and winds howling like a wounded beast. Ravi fought against the elements, his soaked clothes clinging to his body as he trudged through knee-deep floodwaters. The cries grew louder, guiding him toward the source, a luxury SUV teetering precariously on the edge of a washed-out road. Inside, a young woman sat frozen, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Her elegant attire, now drenched and mud-streaked, hinted at a life far removed from the poverty Ravi knew all too well. Her wide, frightened eyes locked onto his as he approached, relief washing over her face. "Hold on!" Ravi shouted over the roar of the storm, his voice barely audible above the chaos. Using every ounce of strength, he wrenched open the door and helped her out, shielding her from debris carried by the wind. Together, they stumbled back toward his hut, the rising waters threatening to sweep them away at every step. Once inside, Ravi wrapped her in a dry blanket and handed her a cup of hot tea brewed over the flickering lantern. She shivered uncontrollably, not just from the cold but from the trauma of nearly losing her life. "I'm Priya," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come." "Just doing what anyone would do," Ravi replied humbly, though his stomach growled audibly, reminding him he hadn't eaten since breakfast. Priya noticed and frowned. "You've done so much for me, yet you live like this." She glanced around the sparse room, taking in the cracked walls and threadbare furniture. Before Ravi could respond, the sound of distant rotors cut through the storm. 2 helicopters appeared on the horizon, their searchlights slicing through the darkness. "They're here for me," Priya whispered, her expression shifting from gratitude to urgency. Ravi stared outside, stunned. Who was she? And why were people searching for her with such intensity? What happened next would shock not only him but the entire village as the helicopters descended, their powerful searchlights illuminating the flooded landscape. Priya stepped outside with Ravi close behind. Villagers emerged from their homes, shielding their eyes from the wind kicked up by the rotors, curiosity etched on their faces. The scene was surreal. A quiet, forgotten village suddenly thrust into the spotlight by machines that seemed otherworldly. From one of the helicopters, a man in his late 50s leapt out, his tailored suit and polished shoes starkly contrasting with the muddy terrain. His face was a mix of relief and desperation as he scanned the crowd until his gaze landed on Priya. "Priya!" he cried, rushing toward her and pulling her into a tight embrace. "We've been searching everywhere for you." Ravi watched silently, his mind racing. This wasn't just any girl. This was someone important. Someone whose absence had mobilized an operation fit for royalty. "This is Mr. Kapoor," Priya explained, gesturing to the man. "He's my father." The name hit Ravi like a thunderclap. Kapoor Industries was a household name, synonymous with wealth, power, and influence. He'd seen their advertisements plastered across billboards and heard tales of their sprawling empire, but never imagined meeting anyone from the family, let alone saving their daughter. "I owe this man my life," Priya continued, turning to her father. "If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here." Mr. Kapoor's sharp eyes shifted to Ravi, studying him intently. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then, without warning, the billionaire dropped to one knee before Ravi, bowing his head deeply. "You have saved my greatest treasure," Mr. Kapoor said, his voice thick with emotion. "I cannot repay you enough." Ravi stood frozen, unsure how to respond. I just did what anyone would do," he stammered, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment. But Mr. Kapoor wasn't satisfied with mere gratitude. Over the next hour, he learned everything about Ravi, the failed crops, the mounting debts, the sacrifices made for his mother. Each detail only deepened his resolve to help. Before leaving, Mr. Kapoor addressed the gathered villagers. "This man has shown us the true meaning of courage and kindness. And because of him, your lives will change too." No one knew exactly what he meant yet, but within hours, trucks filled with supplies began arriving, followed by engineers and architects. The transformation had begun, and it all started with Ravi's selfless act. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. True to his word, Mr. Kapoor didn't waste a moment in transforming Ravi's life and the lives of everyone in the village. Within days, construction crews arrived, armed with blueprints and machinery. What was once barren farmland began to transform into a thriving hub of activity. New irrigation systems were installed, solar panels powered homes, and roads replaced muddy paths that had isolated the community for decades. But Mr. Kapoor's generosity didn't stop there. He personally visited Ravi's home, sitting cross-legged on the dirt floor as they discussed plans for the future. "You deserve more than charity," he said firmly. "I want to invest in your potential." Ravi hesitated, unsure how to respond. "Sir, I'm just a farmer. I don't know anything about business or investments." "You're wrong," Mr. Kapoor countered. "You've shown leadership, bravery, and compassion, qualities rarer than gold. That's why I'm offering you a partnership. Together, we'll turn this village into a model of sustainability and prosperity." Overwhelmed but determined not to squander the opportunity, Ravi agreed. Under Mr. Kapoor's guidance, he became the face of a new initiative aimed at empowering rural communities. Farmers learned modern techniques, children attended newly built schools, and healthcare clinics provided free services to those in need. Priya stayed involved too, often visiting the village to oversee projects and ensure everything ran smoothly. Over time, a deep bond formed between her and Ravi, not romantic, but rooted in mutual respect and shared purpose. One evening, as Ravi stood atop a hill overlooking the transformed village, Priya joined him. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if that storm hadn't come?" she asked softly. "I think about it all the time," Ravi admitted. "But then I realize it wasn't the storm that changed things. It was people choosing to do the right thing, even when it was hard." Priya smiled, her eyes reflecting the twinkling lights of the village below. "You remind me of my father before he built his empire. Humble, kind, and unstoppable." Ravi chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his neck. "Well, I still prefer farming to boardrooms, and that's what makes you special," Priya replied warmly. Through their collaboration, Ravi proved that greatness isn't measured by wealth or status, but by the impact one has on others. And thanks to his kindness, an entire community found hope where none had existed before. the village that was once forgotten became a beacon of hope and progress, drawing visitors from across the country eager to witness its transformation. Ravi, once a struggling farmer burdened by debt, now stood as a symbol of resilience and humility. His story inspired countless others to believe in the power of kindness and perseverance. For Mr. Kapoor, the project reignited his passion for giving back. He often credited Ravi with reminding him of the values he'd held dear before success changed his world. Sometimes, he told reporters during an interview, "It takes someone else's courage to remind us of our own humanity." As for Priya, she found a renewed sense of purpose beyond her privileged upbringing. Working alongside Ravi taught her the importance of empathy and action, qualities she vowed to carry into every aspect of her life. One crisp morning, as Ravi walked through the fields he had once feared losing, he paused to watch children playing near a newly planted orchard. Their laughter echoed through the air, carrying with it a promise of brighter tomorrows. In that moment, Ravi realized something profound. Acts of kindness don't just change lives. They create ripples that touch generations. The stormy night that brought Priya into his life wasn't merely a twist of fate. It was a reminder that even in our darkest hours, light can break through. So, Beyond Words reminds us, no act of goodness goes unnoticed. Whether big or small, each one has the power to transform not only individual lives but entire communities. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Beyond Words for more tales that celebrate the extraordinary in the ordinary. Until next time, remember, your actions matter. Keep spreading kindness, it always comes back around.